Ever feel like you're staring at the Chicago commercial real estate scene and, well, just wishing someone would hand you the quick guide, the Cliff's Notes on how to really make sense of it all?
Yeah, like there's some strategy everyone else knows, but you're missing out.
Exactly. Well, consider this your express lane. Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the noise to get you the core insights.
And today, we are really zeroing in, laser focused on a specific and I think potentially quite lucrative approach in Chicago commercial real estate.
Okay, intriguing.
Think of it like unlocking a hidden level in property investment. And we're using some pretty solid information as our map here.
A map, I like that. And where does this treasure map lead us today?
It leads us straight to REO arbitrage,
That's
specifically within the Chicago commercial real estate market.
REO Arbitrage. Got it.
Yeah, and for this exploration, we're drawing on, real-world experience,
Yeah.
insights from Michael Linton and the Chicago Deal Flow team. Their perspective is really boots on the ground. You can find their stuff over at chicagodealflow.com.
Good resource. So chicagodealflow.com.
Right, and we're pulling from some other relevant materials, too. The goal is really to get under the hood of this strategy, how it works, and why Chicago is, well, such a key place for it.
Okay, REO Arbitrage. Sounds a bit technical, maybe? Maybe
Uh,
intimidating for some. Can you break that down simply? What are we actually talking about?
Sure. At its heart, it's pretty straightforward. REO means real estate owned by a lender, usually a bank, right, after a foreclosure.
Okay, bank-owned properties.
Exactly. So REO arbitrage is about buying those properties
Yeah.
for hopefully less than what they're really worth in the market.
A low market value.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
The whole opportunity, the arbitrage part,
Yeah.
lies in that price difference. You did resell it quickly for a profit, or you improve the property, add value, and then sell it or hold it. It's all about finding and leveraging those gaps in valuation.
So spotting a disconnect between the bank's selling price and the property's actual potential. And why Chicago? Why is it such a hot spot for this kind of thing?
Well, Chicago and its suburbs just have a consistent flow.
Oh.
Properties moving into that REO pipeline. Plus the sheer variety of commercial real estate here. Industrial, retail, office, land. It just creates a steady stream of potential opportunities for this strategy. It's quite dynamic.
Makes sense. Constant churn, lots of variety. Okay, definition down. Let's dig into the why. Why is this a smart play? What's the strategic edge here in Chicago?
The big advantage really stems from market inefficiencies. Think about it from the bank's perspective.
Okay.
They're not really in the business of owning and managing warehouses or strip malls, right? When they foreclose, they often just want that asset off their books.
Fast. Minimize the losses, free up capital.
Precisely. That urgency often means they'll price the property to sell quickly, maybe below what a patient seller could get, especially, say, smaller regional banks. They might feel even more pressure than the giant national ones to clear these non-performing assets.
Ah, okay. So it's the seller's need for speed that creates the opening for an investor. And for someone listening, trying to, get up to speed on the Chicago market, understanding this dynamic is pretty crucial.
Absolutely. And look, this isn't just theory. We mentioned Michael Linton earlier. He's got, 38 years as a commercial broker right here. Chicago, the northwest suburbs.
Wow, nearly 4 decades.
Yeah. And he sees REO arbitrage as a really solid, proven strategy, something that works through different economic cycles. He's seen it play out time and again.
That kind of long-term perspective is invaluable. Where specifically is he seeing these opportunities pop up most often? Any particular areas?
He often mentions places across the northwest suburbs. Think Libertyville, Lake Zurich, maybe Crystal Lake, Hoffman Estates, Elgin, Schaumburg, even Niles. These areas have all seen economic shifts over the years, which, unfortunately for some, leads to distressed assets.
Right, those suburban markets definitely have their own cycles. Okay, so we get the what's and the why. Let's move to the how. What are the actual practical steps someone would take to execute an REO arbitrage play?
Okay, step one is finding the deals, sourcing. This means actively watching bank REO listings, keeping an eye on auctions both online and the live ones.
So keeping your ear to the ground.
Definitely. And maybe even more importantly, building relationships, getting to know the asset managers at the banks directly.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best deals don't even hit the open market.
Right, those off-market opportunities. Okay, so you found a potential property. What's next? Got to check it out, right?
Absolutely. Rigorous due diligence. Cannot stress this enough. You need to dive deep. What's its real market value? What's the physical condition? REO properties often come with, let's say, deferred maintenance. Sometimes significant repairs needed.
Yeah, they're sold as is, usually.
Often, yes. And you also need to assess its potential. Can it be improved? repositioned? Could it be used for something different that the
Yeah.
market needs more?
So really looking past the current state to see what could be. Okay, due diligence done, then what? Making an offer.
Exactly. Negotiation and acquisition.
Yeah.
And here's where you leverage that seller urgency we talked about. Your offer needs to be competitive, sure, but knowing the bank wants a quick, clean deal can work in your favor.
Being ready to close quickly helps.
Immensely. Having your financing lined up, being able to act fast, that can be a huge advantage in negotiations.
Okay, deal closed. You own the property. Now the real work starts.
Now you create the value. This is where the arbitrage really pays off beyond just the purchase price discount. It could mean renovations, fixing things, modernizing.
Bringing it up to current standards.
Right. Or implementing smart leasing strategies if it's vacant or underleased, attracting good tenants. Or maybe, like we touched on, repositioning it entirely, changing its use to meet current market demand. Like maybe that old office building in a certain suburb could become much-needed apartments, for example.
Interesting. Seeing the potential and then actually making the changes to realize it. And the final step, getting your money back out.
Disposition, exactly. Selling the now improved, stabilized property could be to an end user who wants to occupy it, or another investor looking for a performing asset. Or maybe you assemble a few of these and sell them as a portfolio. The goal is to capture the profit from that initial discount plus the value you added.
Right, the full cycle. Identify, enhance, exit. You mentioned different property types earlier. What kinds are we usually talking about in Chicago REO deals?
You see a few main categories. One is definitely underutilized land or properties sitting in areas where growth is expected. This ties into something called a covered land play.
Covered land play. Explain that a bit.
It's basically buying land, often at that discounted REO price, maybe with a small existing structure on it that generates some income, but the real play is holding it for future development. You're betting on the land appreciating as the area grows. The covered part just means you might have some minimal income covering holding costs while you wait.
Ah, okay. So buying dirt cheap for future upside. What else?
Then you have your classic distressed commercial REOs, buildings with lots of deferred maintenance, maybe high vacancy rates. You see these quite a bit in the suburban market sometimes. Properties may be tied to businesses that struggled.
So turnaround projects.
Exactly. They need capital, they need management attention, maybe new leasing strategies to bring them back to life.
Makes sense. And you also mentioned buying in bulk.
Yes, bulk REO pools.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lender wants to clear out a whole bunch of these assets at once, so they package them up.
Buying a portfolio of distressed properties?
Right. It requires a lot of upfront work, obviously. You have to diligence every single property in the pool. But the potential upside is you might get an even deeper discount per asset because you're taking the whole lot off their hands. Plus, you get instant diversification.
Interesting. Economies of scale, even in the distressed space. Let's circle back to something you stressed earlier, the seller's urgency. How critical is that piece?
Oh, it's fundamental. Honestly, it's the engine driving these opportunities. That motivation of the bank or lender to just get rid of the property quickly. That's what leads to the below-market pricing that makes the whole arbitrage concept work.
Without their need for speed, the discount might not be there?
Pretty much. Their main goal often isn't maximizing price, it's minimizing hassle, reducing their non-performing assets, and getting capital back efficiently, cleaning up the balance sheet, like you said.
That urgency, then, it translates into negotiating power for the buyer.
It certainly can. If you can show you're a serious buyer, you can close fast, you're reliable, they might be more willing to accept a lower number or offer better terms just to get the deal done.
Okay, so buying low is key, but you also really hit on the value creation part. Can we explore that a bit more? What does that look like practically, say, in the Chicago context?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more than just, slapping on some paint. For example, take an older industrial building you picked up REO. Value creation might mean upgrading loading docks to handle modern trucks or boosting the power supply for manufacturing tenants. Real functional improvement.
Stuff that tenants actually need.
Exactly.
Right.
Or a vacant retail strip center. Maybe you reconfigure the space sizes. Smaller spaces might be in higher demand now than one big box. Or you target a specific type of tenant medical, service-based, that fits the neighborhood's needs better.
Adapting to the local market.
Totally. And on the leasing side, maybe you offer more flexible lease terms initially or provide targeted TI allowances and tenant improvement money to attract those first crucial tenants quickly. It's about being strategic to fill the space and stabilize the asset.
So it really requires understanding what the market wants in that specific Chicago location and then delivering it. Now, you talked about covered land play and bulk REO pools. How do they fit into the bigger REO arbitrage picture? Are they separate things or part of it?
Think of REO arbitrage as the big umbrella, the
Yeah.
main philosophy, right? Buy undervalued bank-owned stuff, profit from the price difference, and added value.
Okay, the overarching strategy.
Right. Covered land play and buying bulk REO pools. Those are just specific tactics or ways to execute that strategy. If you buy discounted REO land for future development, that is REO arbitrage, you're arbitraging the current price against future potential.
Just focused on land.
Exactly. And sourcing and buying a whole portfolio of discounted REOs in bulk. That's just a particular method for finding and acquiring the underpriced assets that are central to the REO arbitrage strategy. They're specialized approaches within the broader framework.
Gotcha. So different tools in the REO arbitrage toolkit, basically. Now, this all sounds quite promising, but let's be balanced. Are there important considerations, potential pitfalls people should be aware of when looking at this in Chicago?
Oh, definitely. It's crucial to remember these are distressed assets for a reason. The distress isn't always just physical condition.
Right, there's usually a story behind it.
Exactly. Sometimes the property's problems are tied to bigger economic issues in a certain sector, or maybe legal complexities. You might run into things like title clouds, layamens, maybe leftover disputes with previous tenants. These things can complicate the deal.
Hidden headaches?
Potentially, yes. And sometimes, in certain areas, you might find properties tangled up in broader community issues or even legal battles that go beyond just that one building. We don't need to get into specifics, but it's just a factor that savvy investors need to be aware of. In the Chicago market, these external complexities can exist.
So the due diligence has to go beyond just the bricks and mortar and the financials.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to check the legal history, understand any potential encumbrances, really grasp the local market nuances, zoning, regulations, any socioeconomic factors playing out in that specific neighborhood or suburb. It's not always straightforward.
Needs a thorough, almost holistic approach then. Okay, let's wrap this up. If you had to distill it down, what's the single most important insight you want our listener to take away about REO arbitrage in Chicago?
I think the key takeaway is this. REO arbitrage offers a real, tangible, strategic advantage here because it lets investors capitalize on those market inefficiencies. Specifically, the inefficiency created by banks and lenders needing to sell distressed assets relatively quickly.
So it's about understanding those seller motivations, finding the undervalued deals that result from it.
Yes, and then having the skill and the capital to actually add value, to unlock the property's true potential that the distressed situation was hiding.
It sounds like success really depends on that combination. Market knowledge, very careful homework, and a solid plan for improvement.
That sums it up well. A strong grasp of local Chicago dynamics, meticulous due diligence, and a clear value-add strategy are definitely the pillars.
And for listeners whose interest is piqued, who want to maybe dig even deeper, you mentioned a resource earlier.
Yeah, for anyone wanting to learn more, chicagodealflow.com is a great place to start. You can find insights there from Michael Linton, tapping into his decades of experience right here in the Chicago market. It covers REO, arbitrage, and other relevant strategies for the area.
Excellent. chicagodealflow.com, worth checking out. Okay, before we go, a final thought for everyone listening to maybe chew on.
Okay.
In a market as dynamic as Chicago, always changing, what maybe less obvious opportunities might be hiding out there for investors who truly understand why institutional sellers act the way they do with distressed assets? Or, put it another way, how could getting inside the strategic thinking of these banks actually unlock potential that others might just completely overlook?
That's a really interesting angle to consider. Food for thought, definitely.
Well, thanks for walking us through this deep dive today. Really insightful.
My pleasure. Good discussion.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Until our next exploration.